Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's presentation of a nonprofit's alternative to unemployment taxes. We're so excited to have so many of you joining us. I know there's a lot going on in New York right now when it comes to unemployment, so I hope you've all been able to take advantage of the Uber voucher and sit back and enjoy this lunch with a lot of information. Sorry, hopefully you all weren't up late last night watching that baseball game, but maybe we've got some Boston fans on this call too. But if not, go ahead. We won't tell anyone. You can buy yourself a bottle of wine with that Uber voucher to drown your sorrows. But anyway, I just really want to do quick housekeeping and a little introduction before I get started. I will be emailing this presentation out. It might take a day or two, but we will be getting this presentation out to all of the attendees. And in about a week, I will also, assuming everything goes correctly, I should also have a recording. So if you do have people in your office that you want to share this with, you will have access to both this and the recording. My name is Heidi Posada, and I have been with 501c Agencies Trust for 11 years now. So through a recession, through a pandemic, and everything in between, I've been helping nonprofits navigate their options when it comes to managing unemployment. And nationwide, I'd say I've saved millions, if not maybe even $1 billion by now. For nonprofits and helping them control their unemployment expenses. I do like to introduce my dog. I think he's in another office today, but that's Hunter, and he sometimes makes a lively appearance on our calls to put a face with the voice, I guess. That's why Hunter was here. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started just real quick, just so you know what you've signed up for. And in addition to hopefully getting your lunch, we're going to be talking a lot about unemployment. This is 30 minutes, so we'll have you done by 12:30. And what we're going to be talking about first is just the big picture of unemployment, how it works, specifically talking about the default option of unemployment, which is FUI. And then we'll be talking about what other alternatives you as a 501c3 have, and specifically what the reimbursing option is and how that works. And then I'm going to touch on a few examples of the difference that we've seen in proposals that we've done when it comes to reimbursing versus taxes. And then finally, I will talk a little bit about 501c services and the program that we offer for nonprofits. So let's start. I like to do this little time machine and go back to the 1930s and talk about a little bit of the history of unemployment. Unemployment benefits started in the 1930s as part of the New Deal. Actually, the very first state to do it was Wisconsin, but in the 1930s, it became a nationwide program. But up until 1972, 501c3 organizations were exempt from benefits. So if you had an employee that was working for a nonprofit from the 1930s up until 1972, if you had to lay them off or they were let go, they did not benefit from the same safety net of unemployment that those in the for-profit sector received. Fast forward, or still stepping back, I guess, but fast forward, 1972, there was a law that passed, the Social Security Act of 1972 passed. Had a whole lot of stuff in it, but one of the things that was included in it is 501c3 employers now had to cover unemployment. So because this was new and they didn't want to put an unnecessary tax on nonprofits, they gave some options, and that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about here. But I do like to say that the options that we talk about are nationwide. It's done, although unemployment is managed at a state level, the major oversight with things like reimbursing is done at a federal level. So anybody can take advantage of the options we'll talk about. So big picture of state unemployment, and I will dig deeper into New York specific information, but I do want to just talk big picture when it comes to state unemployment insurance. It is a pool. Everybody is putting their money into the same pool. As we've heard through both the recession and the pandemic, those pools can go from a lot of money to a lot of debt pretty quickly. Because of that, states can adjust rates, both the tax rate and the taxable wages, to replenish those pools. So again, I'll talk about specific information on New York, but tax in every state, including New York, is calculated by taking a taxable wage base, which is set by the state, and multiplying that by an employer tax rate. And how that is calculated is also set by the state. So a little bit to look at. It is a pool. States have gotten creative on how to replenish funds, or at least partially replenish funds from this last pandemic. But really looking at the majority of organizations paying into the pool are for-profit, and many times we see that the for-profit sector is a little bit more free. I shouldn't say free, but lays people off and terminates people at a higher rate than nonprofits. So they, a lot of times nonprofits end up paying a bigger share because they're not using the unemployment benefits as much as some of the for-profit sector is. So just one little sitting at your desk, and we think about it's to know what the cost of one unemployment claim costs. So another way of looking at this is if someone does file for unemployment in New York, what is, and this is taking away all extended benefits, taking away the extra 600, 300, all that, but what is the most that it can actually cost an employer, either by affecting a tax rate or as a reimbursing employer. Hopefully you've had enough time to think about what that single claim is going to cost. And that is $13,104. So just a little nugget of information, New York specific information, that claim that based on the weekly benefit amount in New York, people can collect up to $13,000. And just a snapshot of New York. Again, the weekly benefit is $504. The taxable wage base currently is $11,800. And New York, and I'll show this moving forward, but New York has been increasing the taxable wage base just a tiny bit each year, I think for the last 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer than that. But they have been slowly adjusting the taxable wage base. Currently, the minimum tax rate in New York is 2.1%, and the maximum tax rate in New York is 9.9%. When it comes to those tax rates, I a lot of times like to, say that state unemployment insurance is similar to car insurance. If you don't have any accidents or claims, your rate tends to stay lower. If you have a lot more claims, then your rate is going to go a little bit higher. The difference that in the way unemployment is managed is when the pool is doing bad, they can change the rates. They can, which will impact what you pay, even if you didn't have any claims or an accident. So something to keep in mind. The state can adjust the minimum, maximum, and everything in between based on what their funds are. And another item I like to talk about is the estimated improper rate, which is 12.15%. And what that means is the Department of Labor, since the last recession, has collected this information, which looks at exactly what it says: improper payments of unemployment. The estimated right now is in 2020 that New York overpaid $161 million. And that's by overpaying weekly benefit amount. That's just a number of areas that they can be overpaying for their unemployment. And what happens is, if you're not auditing your charges, those end up being expenses on your behalf, whether it's because you're overpaying as a reimbursing employer, or you're being charged those overpayments, which is therefore impacting your tax rate. So just a little bit of information about that. And we do get that information directly from the Department of Labor. And it's still a little bit unclear. I think we all know that the 2020 was an anomaly, and it's a little bit unclear as to what the impact is going to be moving forward. Some states have been able to use federal funds to replenish the pools and at least get them to balance out. But the pools need to be more than balanced. They need to have funds. They need to have a significant surplus to manage future claims. So I always find this to be a pretty interesting statistic. In a good economy, the national replacement rate is roughly $1.28, which means if you're paying taxes, you're paying about $1.28 in taxes for every dollar you pay out. In the last recession, that jumped all the way to $2.04. So that's a pretty significant change. And it's hard to guess what's going to happen with COVID, but we can certainly assume that it might be close to that in the coming years, that you might be paying twice as much in taxes as you are in actual claims. So lots going on in New York, and a lot of this is fairly hot off the press. And I know a lot of your industries, a lot of your nonprofits might be impacted by the mandates for vaccines, and you might be losing staff. I know a lot of people are choosing not to get vaccinated and to leave their jobs. Just this past weekend, the New York State Department of Labor has stated that if your employee leaves because they refuse to get vaccinated, they will not be eligible for unemployment. So especially for organizations that have a significant number of employees refusing vaccination, this could be a huge way for you to save money. So just so that you know that it is important to document all terminations specifically, so that you don't end up having to pay for those claims that are not valid, because they still have the opportunity to file for unemployment. So you want to make sure that that you have documented properly. The system that we have has already put in codes so that our New York members and they've been notified on how to enter those codes, so that they don't have to do much other than that. Just enter the code into the termination paperwork, and it should take care of itself. So as I mentioned earlier, the New York State has been increasing taxable wages, and they're increasing tax rates as well. So just looking from 2020 to 2021, how what could seem like little adjustments really can impact you. So for the year 2020, the minimum tax rate was about 0.5%, with the minimum taxable wages of $11,600. So you could be paying as little as $61. If you look at what's changed in 2021, the tax rate went from just over 2%, the taxable wages, to $11,800. So that means the minimum you are now paying per employee is $239. So $178 increase per employee. And then if we look at the maximum again, the maximum rate increased from 7.8 to 9.8. So the maximum a New York employer used to pay, or in 2020 was paying, was $908. per employee. In 2021, they're now paying $1,159, or so $252 more. And the challenging thing with this is, unlike car insurance, where if you're a good driver, doing everything you're supposed to do, you can usually keep your car insurance rates pretty low. Here, the state is impacting your tax rate and your taxable wages, and you have no control over that as an employer. And here is another scenario. Again, each year the taxable wage base has been going up. I think it started around 9 or 10,000. Each year they're bringing it up just a tiny bit. So if you look at the cost for 100 employees, it's going up just a little bit each year. Again, total increase from 2021 to 2026, if you had 100 employees, you're looking at almost a $5,000 increase in what you're paying for SUI, and that is just based on the taxable wages. So you might be sitting here thinking, wow, that's a lot that I don't have control over, which a lot of nonprofits have discovered, that they want a little bit more control over what they're paying out. So I do like to explain the alternatives that nonprofits have. They can, as a nonprofit, you can either pay the state, which I think I've addressed pretty well. You also have the option as a nonprofit to self-insure or reimburse. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about that. And there is a third option, and that is purchasing insurance. So you can get something that's similar to what the state offers, that you can just buy insurance on your own. How reimbursing works, first of all, you do have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. So I know there's C6s and other kinds of 501c's. You do specifically have to be a 501c3 to qualify for this through the federal guidelines. Typically, we say an organization should have a payroll of over $1 million. We will always look and see if you are smaller, if this is still a benefit for you, but typically $1 million or over. And again, positive audit of past 3 years, which means you've paid more in unemployment expenses, more in unemployment taxes than you have in unemployment claims. Right now, we're kind of glossing over 2020. We'll talk about 2020 when we look at an analysis, but that's certainly, we have a lot of flexibility there, especially when it comes to 2020 claims. And of course, if you are anticipating any major disruption in the next 24 months, we would definitely like to talk about that as well if you're considering going through reimbursing. So how reimbursing works, just a little reimbursing 101. The big picture is, instead of the state looking at your taxable wages and assigning you a tax rate, they will just bill you on what you paid in claims. So if you have 0 claims Q1, you're going to pay 0 in unemployment. So it's literally dollar for dollar. There's no other hidden charges, no other assessments, no other reemployment tax that I think New York does. All of it, you're just paying for your unemployment claims. As far as employees, and a lot of times when I'm talking to nonprofits about this, they're like, oh, am I now going to manage the whole unemployment process? And no. Employees, it's very seamless for an employee. They still file with the state of New York. The state of New York will continue to pay those checks. The only difference is the way you are billed for those unemployment. And what we have done, we've been in business since 1982, and so we've done a lot of cost analysis for nonprofits. And what we see is, on average, a nonprofit can save 20 to 40%. Also, you have the opportunity to avoid, especially in the upcoming few years, it's a pretty good assumption that New York is going to continue to increase their SUI so that they have a pool to draw from. So you do avoid that. And bottom line, it's just a better steward of donor dollars. You're paying just for your unemployment claims. You're not paying into a pool that other people are taking from. For those of you, if any of you do have employees in other states, I do like to mention this is available in all 50 states, DC too, and actually Puerto Rico. If you do have employees in multiple states, we can certainly do an analysis for that. Excuse me. So when looking at your options, you can look at how look at either managing, doing your reimbursing on your own. You can outsource to a company like us, like 501c Agencies Trust, or you can purchase insurance. We have an insurance program called You Insure. So I did talk about the savings and what it looks like in New York, and I do want to show you a few examples of calculations we've done for other nonprofits. First of all, this is looking at the taxable wage base of $11,800 with the current tax range of 2.1% to 9.9%. So the contribution amount that you are paying per employee, if you just want to guess, you're paying anywhere between $239 to $1,159. So again, here's some examples looking at some real tax rate notices that we've been able to study in the recent past. So this human services nonprofit had taxable wages of $964,000, a tax rate of 4.7%, and estimated claims over 3 years were only 198, so their average claim. So we were looking that they were paying about $45,000 in taxes each year. So we had an estimated savings of $45,148. So that's how quickly you can start saving your organization money if you have that much of a black and white cost analysis. Here's another one that had some pretty good savings. Taxable payroll of $700,000, tax rate just over 3%. So we were estimating that they were paying about $24,000 in taxes, with annual claims of $5,900, so a little bit higher than the other, but still not more than what they were paying in taxes. So this organization had a potential savings of $18,000. So I know a lot of us think of fundraising as ways to bring more money into the budget, or increasing member dues or other things. But this is just another way of reducing expenses. The flip side, reducing expenses to help your organization out. And some of you might be doing budgets for 1/1. Wouldn't it be great to just plot an extra $20,000 in for next year? So I have a few minutes left that I do want to just talk about what we do and how we do help so many nonprofits. We were founded in 1982 by a UCP executive, United Cerebral Palsy. John was looking at the option of reimbursing for his organization, and he really felt like this is a great opportunity for us to save some money, but I don't want to do it on my own. There's too much risk doing it on your own. So he developed our trust and the program and the services that we offer to help nonprofits manage as reimbursing employers and also limiting their risk. Our company became 100% employee owned in 2016, and we're currently working with over 3,000 nonprofits. And unemployment is what we do, and so we know it well. We can address questions quickly when it comes to anything in the unemployment world. So the services that are included for our members, the first is claims management, and this is a very robust claims management program. All claims are filed online and managed online with the assistance of a claims consultant for our members. We also audit all of the claims, and all of our members have unlimited access to hearing reps. So we want to make sure that if you do choose to reimburse on your own, that you have access to this knowledge that the claims management provides, so that you keep your claims as low as possible. And also, if you are paying taxes, we can still offer all these services to you. And again, the claims management on this end can help keep your claims low, and hopefully keep that tax rate as low as possible. We have an HR services program that includes unlimited access to an HR hotline. We really look at this as another tool in your toolbox, especially this last 18 months. I'm sure a lot of new HR questions have come up. Our HR services were able to put together a number of town hall meetings for our members within weeks of March 16th, 2020, within weeks of the major closures, to address questions as far as back to work safety, furloughs, layoffs, and everything that was happening in those months. Now they're really able to address questions when it comes to vaccinations and back to work safety. And in a normal time, they're really helping our members navigate, of course, the unemployment questions, but also questions when it comes to FMLA, documentation, wage and hours. So a number of questions that they can help you navigate. Our reemployment services is a package that you can offer to any employee you let go, and this allows them to receive coaching assistance, resume writing, and we've got a lot of success stories of nonprofits who have let people go and they have found a job pretty quickly after using these services. Some have completely changed careers. But the benefit to you is the quicker they get a job, the fewer weekly benefits you're paying. So I think I said it was $504 weekly benefit amount. If they get a job 2 weeks quicker, we've just saved you $1,000. And all of our members do have an option of taking insurance to cover catastrophic claims again in 2020. And we had quite a few members that were delighted to have that extra protection. And finally, our last major service that we offer is savings. The trust, 501c Agencies Trust, we encourage our members to put a little bit of extra money aside each year, a rainy day fund. Savings 101 is the way I look at it. When you're not spending as much, put it in savings, so that way if you have a year of high unemployment, you've got that bucket of money set aside that you can use. Unlike the state where you're putting a bucket of money into a pool, this savings account is not a pool. It's money that belongs to your nonprofit and can be withdrawn at any time, and the savings deposits can also be negotiated. So I think a great way for reimbursing employers to manage their expenses, their highs and lows of unemployment. So if this has piqued your interest, and whether you are paying SUI or reimbursing, and if you'd like to look at our services, I can do a free cost analysis, or if you're reimbursing, it's more just a proposal. But for those of you that are paying SUI, you should have access to this tax rate notice. Hopefully you have access to this. If I can get this along with your payroll, I can put together an analysis for you. And again, I will be emailing this form to you so that you have it at your fingertips in case you have any questions. And I think I am right up to 9:30. So I hope this has been enlightening. I hope this has helped you understand what's happening in New York a little bit better with unemployment. I know the vaccine mandates and all of that's on top of mind, I'm sure, for a lot of you. So if you do have any questions, you can certainly address them with me one-on-one after I reach out to you, or here's my contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out directly to me. So again, thank you, and I hope you've all enjoyed this presentation.